3 minutes, right?
Oh, wait, you doing?
Not that was the intro.
Yeah. That's it?
No.
Oh, I thought so. I was like, wait a minute, that wasn't no 3 minutes.
Yeah, right. It wasn't no 3 minutes. I was looking at the countdown.
But I had done missed up.
Thank you for patiently waiting for our live stream event to begin. We are currently seeking sponsorship for our women empowerment seminars. Your contribution would help us to host these events all across the U.S. We truly appreciate your support. If you're interested in making a monetary donation, please visit www.fsptsp.org to contact us. Thank you.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. I am Chancey. Where's Dave? We've got Gabe and Dave is coming on the show. Markeith is not with us tonight, and we are When Men Speak. Welcome, welcome, welcome everybody to our Value of a Man series. And tonight we got a special treat for you. Tonight we will be discussing child support laws and rights. There he is. There's Dave. We're going to be discussing child support laws and rights. And we're singling out fathers, men, but the information that we'll be providing, everybody can use it. But we're talking to men as we are diving deeper into our Valuable Man series. So we got some special information for you today. We want you guys to tune in, take notes, ask questions, join in the conversation as we dive into this next episode of our Valuable Man series, Child Support Laws and Rights. So we're going to start it off with a movie clip that's going to kind of set the tone for what we're discussing tonight, kind of give you an idea of some of the things that men have to go through and deal with as it relates to child support laws and rights. All right, Mr. Tanya, cue us up, please. Hey, Dave, put your thing on mute until we get you talking, brother. There you go. Appreciate you.
Your lawyer?
Sir, I can't afford one, but I do have all my paperwork, Your Honor. And,
Are you ready to begin?
Yes, sir. My kids were taken
The
from
court
me.
is aware of that, but first I'd like to hear about the incident that happened at school.
Your Honor, he gave my daughter weed to sell in school, so, I had to handle
Mr.
that.
James has no evidence to support that allegation. However, we have documentation that demonstrates that Mr. James has a history of violent behavior.
Your Honor, look, I'm caught between a rock and a hard place here. The courts won't help me. My daughters are living with this man. What am I supposed to do right here?
Your Honor, not only are we requesting full custody with no visitation, but also a restraining order against Mr. James. He assaulted my client and threatened bodily
Your
injury.
Honor, this man is giving drugs to my kids.
What proof of that do you have?
Absolutely none.
Your Honor,
Ms. Rossmore?
I'll be representing Mr. James. I'd like to request a continuance at this time, so I might be brought up to speed.
Your Honor, this has gone on long enough. My client is ready to put this
Perhaps
behind
counsel
her.
might want to remind his client that in family court, it's not what's best for the parent, but rather what's in the best interest of the child. That being said, I think these children need effective counsel.
Ms. Rossmore, you are appointed by the court as guardian for the children. When I hear this case on the reset date, I want evidence, not just accusations and speculation. This case is continued for 30 days.
Your Honor, during that time, we'd like to request full custody be granted to the father.
You're pushing your luck. Full custody remains with the mother. Father will have a visitation 1 day a week. Adjourned.
If you've been a nurse for long.
All right. So as you can see, that was pretty severe, but that is not uncommon, especially here in the U.S. Some of our fathers here on the panel have been through very similar situations and instances as it relates to their children. So just kind of lay it out for you guys this evening. Some of the things we're going to be discussing is guardian ad litem, parent alienation, putative registry, de-establishing paternity, and litigation. So first up, we're going to have Dave share his experience with one of the above mentioned laws that I just mentioned for about 5 minutes, and then we're going to transition into our child support experiences. All right, Dave, you're up, brother. Your screen just went black on me. There you go. He's back. Unmute your phone. Unmute, bro.
I said we're talking about the guardian ad litem first, right?
Okay. Yep.
Okay, so in family court, right, in custody court, the court, how can I explain this? Let me share my experience first, right? I learned about the guardian ad litem when I was going through a custody battle for my oldest child, who is now 20. And this was in around 2006, 5, somewhere around that time frame. I had a lawyer, which costs a lot of money, right? And I learned about it myself from just talking to other people. My lawyer didn't tell me about it. But a guardian ad litem is someone that's a neutral party right? That is appointed. Well, you got to request it first. It has to be requested by your attorney or yourself if you represent yourself. And then the judge will appoint a guardian ad litem. Now, guardian ad litem is a trained person. Typically, it's a counselor that's a neutral party to basically represent the child or the children, and it's the best interest of the child. And there's another appointee that the judge can appoint that's similar to a guardian ad litem, but they're pretty much just a volunteer. They have no real training, no real counseling training, no anything. But there's another term that the judge can appoint. I forgot what it's called, but the acronym I think is CASA, CASA. But anyway, a guardian ad litem is representing the child, right? And what they're there for is basically to have discernment or look at the accusations from each party, right? And mind you, the guardian ad litem as well, both parties pay for this, not just the man, not just the woman, because it benefits the child. So this is one part of the court, or family court, where both parties are responsible. Not one party is responsible for covering the fees for the guardian ad litem. But the guardian ad litem can, like how the guy in the video was just saying, he gave weed to my daughter, right, to sell at school. That guardian ad litem can speak and actually, question that child and get the facts. And that guardian ad litem is a trusted party in the court, where if they say, hey, what he just said is factual, the judge will believe it, right? So that's why it's important to have a guardian ad litem, because they represent the child, but they're the person that is going to take away all that speculation, all these accusations, all of this, like the judge just said, I don't want you to coming back in here with no, stories. I don't want you coming back in here. I need to, he want facts. In that case, he needs to assign a guardian ad litem, because he can't prove that, because he didn't see her, him give her the drugs to sell, right? And there's no way he would ever be able to prove something that's, malicious of that nature, or foul in that nature, because, parents that's doing foul, they're not going to share that with the other parent, or they're not going to tell the other parent, right? That's why you need that guardian ad litem, so that they can talk to the kids, get the facts, and they can share the facts in court, and then they'll also, provide their opinion about where the best interests of the child, as far as parenting wise, like where the child should be, as far as their opinion, what household is better fit for the child to grow up in. And that's what the guardian ad litem is for.
Gotcha. Man, it just amazes me how much you have to know when you're involved in this process, because most people don't have the money that's required to go fight this thing in court, especially when they're charging, the father who's trying to fight for their rights. You got to pay both yours and the mom's legal fees. So the average person don't have that kind of money. So the only other option you have really is to get in the books and learn this. You almost have to be a lawyer, to really know what your rights are and know what you can and cannot do and what doesn't work. So thanks, David, for enlightening us on the guardian ad litem, because I've never heard that term until we start digging into this here series, man. Like we are. So right now we're gonna transition to.
Hold on, before you go to that, I'm glad you said that. What you said was, as far as money wise, right? Now that I know what I know now, is better for, well, I ain't gonna say better. If you don't have the money and you can't afford an attorney, then you definitely need to go to court and you need to ask for a guardian ad litem. That way, that expense is split between you and the other party, and you have a trusted party involved in the process. You
Good to
need a
know.
guardian ad litem. Anytime you're going through a custody case or custody battle, or you're trying to prove you're innocent or prove anything, right? You want to have a third party, a trusted third party involved that can speak on your character, speak on what you're saying, and represent for the child. So a guardian ad litem is a key. It's the key person in the court that's going to help you in any situation, because it help control your emotions as well. Because women get emotional, men get emotional, especially when there's lies being told.
Yeah.
And you can't do anything about a lie being told.
Right.
And we know that there's biases in the court system already. So it's important for you to have that third party to basically bring forth the truth.
Okay. Hey,
Now,
Dave, since you're going to be our key speaker tonight, mainly, I want you to enlighten the audience on your current situation. Like, how many kids, how many you have custody of that's with you now, and you're doing this thing, by yourself right now.
okay, yeah. So I have 5 kids, 4 different women, been married twice. And yeah, so, and I have joint custody of all of my kids, right? And we can talk about joint custody later, but joint custody of all my kids, legitimation of.
You froze up on us, brother. But I wanted you guys to kind of, I asked him that question. You froze up on us, Dave, so we missed the last part of that. But I was telling the audience that I asked that question so that they know the experience that you come from. Like I said, he has joint custody of all of his girls, and they're all girls, by the way, of all of his girls. And so he's fought the fight. He's fought the fight, the good fight of faith. So he has the experience and the know-how to navigate through the legal water. So that's why we're using him as our key speaker tonight, to kind of just share information with you guys and those who are going through this process and who are struggling, don't know what to ask, who to ask, who to talk to, who needs to be on your side to help you through this. We just want to put out some information, some resources to you tonight to help you guys who may be going through a similar situation as David is and has. So to just, transition, and Gabe and I are going to share some things too, but David is going to be our key speaker tonight. But for me, my experience, my daughter is now 28 years old, so I'm out of the child support process. But when I was in it, when my daughter was born in 95, me and her mom were both still in the military. So I was advised firsthand not to wait on her, but to go put myself on child support. So like I was saying to the guys earlier, when my daughter was born, Fort Polk, Louisiana, I wasn't there. But her mom was able to put my name on the birth certificate when she was born outside of my presence. I wasn't there. Now, there was no problem with me because I wasn't fighting it. I knew it was my daughter. But I didn't know you could do that when you not be present. They can put your name on the birth certificate, and now you're obligated for child support and everything else, even though you weren't there for the child's birth or there to sign a birth certificate. So for me, I put myself on child support. I had a copy of that birth certificate with my name on it. And, they were garnishing my wages from when I was in the military. And good thing for me, my daughter's mom never sent me back for an increase. So I paid the same thing for my daughter all the way through, 8 till she turned 18, graduated high school. Now, granted, I helped along the way with everything that she needed provided outside of the child support. So we didn't fight about that. We didn't have the drama that a lot of people go through and the hassles and the struggles. I didn't have to go to court at all for anything, for any purposes. So I definitely appreciate David's point of view and his perspective that he brings to the conversation for tonight. So before we go into to Gabe, his experience, I want to hit up Dave for the cover the child support laws and rights. That's going to be the focus of our conversation tonight, is child support laws and rights. So he has some information that he's going to put out to us at large. So Get your pens out. Get ready to take some notes. All right, Dave, on you, brother.
All right. So child support laws. So basically, honestly, child support laws vary from state to state, right? And you need to understand that you need to know what your child support laws are for that state. Put it like that, and you got to look those up. It's a lot of research, a lot of reading to understand, and a lot of interpretation that you might need an attorney to help you interpret the law, so you can have an understanding of the law, right? And I think it seems to me is worded a way where it's hard for you to understand, so that you have to get a lawyer so you can have an understanding, because reading and interpretation and understanding is based on the individual, right? So if you want to have a real solid understanding, you might want to seek counsel to have an understanding of what the law is. But child support, like what Chauncey just said, he took it on his own and put himself on child support, which you can do that. You have every right. But what you really want to understand is a woman can put you on child support, right? And you might not even be the father, or you are the father, right? Or you are the father. But when you're put on child support, that doesn't give you rights to that child. You need to understand. A lot of people don't understand that part where, hey, I'm paying child support. I want to visit my child. I want to see my child. She's keeping my child away from me. Child support doesn't authorize you or grant you rights to that child. That's where legitimation comes in. And it's a sad system, because if you're paying child support for a child, you would think that it's automatic that you have those rights to that child, right? You don't. When a child is born in America out of wedlock, only out of wedlock now, when a child is born in America out of wedlock, the father has no rights to that child. Nothing. He has to petition the superior court for rights, which is legitimation, and that's getting legitimized so they can have rights to that child. Without legitimation, father cannot obtain custody, exercise visitation rights, or make legal decisions on behalf of that child. Why you want to get that legitimation? Not just for those reasons, but when you die, your child won't have. You want your child to have access to whatever you have, right? The child won't have any access if you don't have it legitimated. So there's a whole bunch of reasons on why you need to get that child legitimated. And pretty much legitimation is just saying, hey, I am saying I'm the father. I'm telling the government, which is the court system, that I'm the father and I'm responsible for that child, right? And I'm going to take care of that child. And that's pretty much in a nutshell what the legitimation is for in the court, in the family court. The two methods to legitimate a child is first, you could do it by just having an agreement with the mother, right? You and the mother both enter into a legal agreement acknowledging legitimation of this child. This is outside of an attorney, outside of the court. You still got to go and file it in the court system, but you and the mother amicably say, hey, I'm the child, and the mother saying the same thing. The second way, like I said before, filing a petition to court, the superior court in your county, and saying that, hey, but not your county. It has to be the county where the mother resides to file for a petition for legitimation. Not your county where you reside at, because it's out of jurisdiction. The jurisdiction resides where the mother lives, the mother address. So you got to go to that county and file for a petition for legitimation, right? So that's the other way. And those are only two methods you can actually get your child legitimated, where you have rights and you're entitled to school documents, doctor documents, whatever. You're entitled to that child. Like, the mother must give you this information.
So Dave, let me pause right there and ask, how is it that they don't need you they can put your name on the birth certificate to say that a child is yours, and you can pay child support, but at the same time, I have no rights to the child until I got to go and file for petition for legitimation, but I can still be paying child support for a child that's not even legitimated as mine.
Right. So it's the American system, right? And it still needs a lot of work, right? So let's go back a little bit about the child support system, right? The child support system was created based on the Social Security Act, and that was back in, man, I forgot when it was, in 1950s or something like that.
Want to go through a topic tonight that
I forgot. I ain't have all my notes on that one, but it falls under Title 4D funding for the Social Security Act, right? And it all tied to the welfare system, right? And they created the child support system because what was happening was a lot of people were getting on welfare, and mainly it was single women, single mothers, and with absent fathers, right? So what the government looked at was like, we're taking care of these women because they don't have the support that they need from the men, right? And they're on the system because we want to get them off the welfare system, but we can't get them off because they don't have the support, because they have these kids that they got to take care of, and they don't have the support from men to help them take care of those kids, right? So they saying that they can't hear me.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good.
Oh, okay. So that's where the child support came in. It was to help alleviate or reduce the number of people on welfare, right? But there's some things with the child support system that I was learning under the Title 4D funding that is going to be mind-blowing, right? A state is mandated to establish a child support system, right? But how they participate in it is incentivized. They get incentives by their participation. And what I say by that is, the more people they have on child support, right, in that state, the more funding they get for welfare. You need to understand that. The more people that they have on the child support system, the more funds they get for the welfare system.
Is that through grants?
It's a federal funding.
Yeah. Okay.
Federal funding. And it goes to the state itself, right? And they distribute those funds throughout that state and however they do it. And all those funds also, again, the judges get paid off these funds. The child support system, meaning the workers, all of them get paid off these funds. So that's why the child support system will never go away, because I'm getting federal funding based on the number of people I put in the system. So if you got 40 million in this state and 5 million in this state, in Nebraska, and 40 million in New York, who you think is going to get the most funding?
Yeah,
New York will, right? Because they're thinking that they got to cover that welfare gap, right? That, like, it's a gap, but it's not a gap. That's not what it's no gap. It's basically designed to employ people nowadays. That's the way I look at it. And I want to tell the audience, I'm not a lawyer. So anything I say is not real legal advice. You need to seek legal counsel. I do my research, and based on my interpretation of my research, this is what I've gathered.
And I've been through a lot with kids, you know, and through the child support system, the court system, family law, and things of that nature, because I have, you know, 5 kids, 5 girls whom I made sure that I'm going to be in their lives, put it like that, by any means necessary, right? So I learned as I grew, and I spent a lot of money in court dealing with family law and child support cases. Like I wasn't fortunate like Chauncey, where him and his significant other was amicable, and they, you know, he went down immediately to take it himself out on child support, and she never filed for an increase. That wasn't my case. You know, I've been to court several times for child support increases, and I told Chauncey the other day, I was like, you were lucky, because the child support system, what they do is they constantly harass the mothers and say, hey, when are you going to file for an increase? You're entitled to an increase every year or every other year, depending on the state, whatever state you're living in. And what I've learned too, the red states, which is the Republican states, you're going to see more child support cases in those states than you do in the blue states.
Wow.
Right? I just read that today. So when people say voting doesn't matter, it matters. It matters all the way around. So that's my take on child support. And you need to understand that you can't use Title 4D in court against the system. They know what it stands for.
What's that? Tell us what
Title
that is.
4D, Title 4D funding, meaning like, oh, I know what Title 4D funding. You want to just put me on child support and keep me on child support because you get funds from federal funds from the feds for having me on child support. Yeah, that's true, and you can't do nothing about it. No lawyer would try to combat that, you know, because technically you don't have to pay child support, right? But you're forced to pay it because of the systematic laws that's set up, where if you don't pay it, trust and believe, you're going to go to jail. They're going to take your license. They're going to make your life miserable if you don't pay child support. You know, you can go and back pay. You don't pay it, back pay, whatever you want to call it, arrears. Go get a job. They're going to start garnishing. Get a income tax check. You think you got it? They're taking it away from you. They're going to take that money by any means necessary.
So here's one, Dave, and this just came to me, man. So you just mentioned how child support directly impacts the welfare system and vice versa. Mm-hmm. So if, say for instance, you and your child's mom work out a situation where you're not on child support, they don't put you on child support, they don't file for you, and you handle your responsibilities as a father, right? If they go and apply for any kind of federal assistance, WIC, welfare, food stamps, EBT, whatever, will the state put you on child support even though she didn't, because she applied for federal assistance?
If it's still going on that same way, I know they were doing it, but I don't know if they're still doing it because it's based on the state, right? Yeah. So I don't know what states are doing it, but yeah, they're still doing it. In one of these states, it's still happening. It used to be in Georgia where they did that, but I don't know if they're still doing it. I didn't research that part, but I know, yeah, if the mother is single and applies for welfare and she has kids, they're gonna go for that father to pay child support. It's tied to the welfare system.
And so that goes back to what we talked about having your receipts and having money orders and all those kinds of things. So even if you do all those things, have your documentation readily available and in place that you've been providing support, if you are not on court mandated, state mandated child support, those receipts mean absolutely nothing to them. Yeah, so you're still going to be in the rears. You're still going to have to pay back child support, even though you've been providing for that child from day one, if that is the case.
It depends on the state. Depends on the state, right? It depends on the state. Yeah. And you have to have a lawyer to represent you to fight that battle, right? You go in there by yourself in the child support court,
and you say, hey, I have records, bank statements, et cetera, right? Where I've been paying child support for, years, right? Those are gifts.
Yeah.
And don't let the child be illegitimate, meaning you don't have legitimation of that child.
Yeah.
Oh, you've been paying for a child that ain't even legitimized.
Yeah.
You're not even obligated.
How can you say you've been paying child support? You
not that you're not obligated, but you don't even have rights, you know what I'm saying, to that child, right? So yeah, and that's another thing, right? So they could take the child support out on you and the child's still not legitimized.
Mm-hmm.
That's the crazy part about it. Like, I could force you to pay child support and you still don't have rights to the child.
Yeah.
So now you got to go and get rights to the child, because now the court just told you got to pay to take care of this child. You got to pay this woman.
My.
Right? It's a lot that needs to change with that program, but I don't see it ever changing, because what state would try to change that system where they no longer get federal funding?
Yeah, they're benefiting.
Because you got to think about it. You're going to cut out a lot of jobs if they change it. To me, there's a way you can change it and still keep people employed, but that's a whole nother analysis, a whole nother, topic, a whole nother, but the child support system is messed up in America. It's messed up.
Yeah.
Because those receipts that you keep all these receipts, it don't mean nothing. It doesn't, in the child support court, it don't mean nothing, depending on the state and depending on if you got a lawyer or not.
So,
but you're still gonna you'll be a lucky one if you go to court and they say, okay, well, we're gonna say you're not in arrears, you don't owe anything, right? Because what he's saying is, let me recap it real quick. What Chauncey's saying is, there are times where a mother don't even know who the father is, right? And they have family members that saying, hey, you need to, find out who the father is or whatever, right? And they probably had an option as 2 or 3 people, right? So now they went and did a DNA test, and 2 people did a DNA test to prove that it's not their child, but that other person didn't do it because they're beefing. This woman is beefing with this child, this man, right? Well, she know he's the only one left. The child is what, 5 or 4 now, maybe 3, right? She go and take out child support on this man. There you go, automatically arrears. Yeah, because the child is 3 years old. Now another scenario, you present, you paying child support to this woman, you're taking care of the woman, all of that. She gets mad. She go take out child support on you. Yeah, the child is 3 years old. Automatic arrears. Yeah. And you're gonna show all these receipts, all of this stuff, but it don't mean nothing unless you got the money and the lawyer to fight for you and help you out in that scenario. Yeah.
Okay. Hey, Gabe.
Yeah. So
what you got, brother? Because I want to hit these questions, man. Come on with it.
Yeah. So quickly, I know a guy that he was married and he was paying child support directly to his ex-wife, and she got mad at him one day, took him back. He owed all the arrears that he literally, I'm not making this up, had to live in his car because it was garnishing almost the entire check, even though he'd been paying for years. So quickly, my story is when I was in Afghanistan, so my son's mother found out, I guess the state and my son's mother found out, or like Dave said, they told her that I was in Afghanistan making a lot of money. So unbeknownst to me, my child support went from, I think I was paying like $800 to $1,600 a month for my son. I was not present in court. I didn't know. The state just raised my child support to $1,600. Couple of years in 2019, I tried to lower my child support when I lost my job. I went to court 4 times, and my son's mother never showed up. Matter of fact, one time the judge actually called her phone It was ridiculous. And every time the case got extended while she was not there, no reason, she just didn't show up. And the last time we went to court, her rude lawyer went and talked to the judge, said I was like the scum of the earth. When I went, my wife actually went into court. I think God wanted her to see it. This judge dressed me down because they said they requested my taxes. And I said I wanted to see my ex-wife's taxes, even though they refused. They said I was not being responsive. So the judge dressed me down, didn't give me a chance to speak, said she's not lowering the child support, had me pay my ex-wife lawyer fee, even though she knew I was not working, and told me that she was taking our case from family court to superior court. So that was in 2019. And at that point, the good Lord said, let it go. So I'm okay with the amount, I'm paying, but I think you guys have heard me on this podcast. I am paying for my son that even though I have custody, she's refusing for me to see him. But one thing I know in this country, I'm accountable for child support. Like that affects your life when you're in arrears. You can't get a passport. I have jobs that I travel over the world. Try getting a passport being in arrears. You will not. And even, you don't want to do that if you have a job. It affects if you have a security clearance. Yeah, that can affect your livelihood a lot. So I will
it impacts you.
Pay the child support. Even when she's mad at doing, because it affects you beyond the beef, right? So that would be my advice to every man. Pay your child support on time.
There's no way around it. There's no way to combat it. Now, let me tell you this: you can represent yourself in court, or you can get a lawyer. Now, with child support court, I highly recommend that you don't represent yourself. That's one court that you don't represent yourself in. There's no guardian ad litem that can help you with a child support court, right? There has, certain laws for child support. There's a child support worksheet, right? And that worksheet and those laws, and trying to understand that worksheet and how they come up with the calculation. But the worksheet itself is for both parents, right? It's supposed to have the income for both parents, the father and the son. The father and the mother, right? And basically what they try to determine is saying, hey, this is how much child support you can afford, which is the father. And this is how much child support you can afford, which is the mother. We know the mother has primary custody. She's not going to pay child support. But if she was paying child support, this is how much she can afford, right? And they'll basically meet somewhere in the medium. There's a medium, there's a max, and there's a minimum. Now, in order to get the minimum, you have to basically prove that you're paying extra monies for this child, right? And these are my experiences. I'm telling you about my experience. One, I had a lawyer. Two, I provide medical insurance and dental insurance for that child. That helped me reduce my child support to the minimum versus paying the medium or the lawyer helped me. One. Two, that I paid the insurance, both dental and medical, helped me go from max to minimum, right? Now, I can tell you this story. I was in family court one time, looking to get custody of my daughter, my 17-year-old. Now she's 17. And I had a lawyer. At the same time, I had a subpoena to go to court for a child support increase, right? So two different courts. Need to understand that child support court is not family court. It's child support court. Family court is family court. I had a lawyer that was telling me in family court, I'm going to go and get custody. I'm trying to get custody of my child with this lawyer, right? That my daughter's mom is asking for a child support increase. I tell her, don't talk to me about child support because
that's not for this court, right? And we're not going to resolve child support increase or anything like that in family court. I have another lawyer. I had 2 lawyers at the time. I had another lawyer to represent me in child support court, right? But this woman bias, well, you're only paying such and such. Like, you don't feel like, and you've been paying this for 7 years. You don't feel like she should get an increase? She's getting older. And at this time, I think my daughter was like 14 or 15, or going on 14. You don't think she should get an increase? I said, ma'am, I just asked you not to talk to me about child support. Like, you don't represent me for child support. You represent me for custody. But me understanding this woman has a bias because she's a single mother as well, right? But she has a deadbeat baby daddy, right? I learned this through the conversation, right? In the beginning when I first hired her, right? But it made me think about, why is she so adamant? Why is she so persistent with trying to force me to go ahead and resolve the child support issue in family court? And then we talk about the family situation, the custody situation. Long story short, I fired her.
Of course.
I fired her and represented myself in family court. And in the child support court, I had my lawyer for that, and he represented me. And I did have to do an increase, but it was only like $40. $40 versus what she was trying to get me to do. She was trying to get me to, it was an increase of like $400. My lawyer at the time was like, because I asked, I was like, what do you think is reasonable then? Because you keep saying I don't pay that much. And she was like, I think, based on what you make, this is reasonable. And I'm like, no, I take care of my child. I get my child. I have visitation. She's legitimized. Like, she's with me every weekend, every summer, every holiday, every spring break, things of that nature. So no, I'm not paying that much money. Like, that's crazy. Because who pays me when I have it?
Right.
Who helps me during the summer?
I sure hope y'all are taking notes, man, because he's putting out dropping some jewels here that I know is going to be beneficial to a lot of folks who are going through the same situation. But I want to get into these questions because I know some of you guys either have these questions or you have questions too. So it's 7:47. So I want to try to get these in before we go. We got about 8 questions we got to go over.
Hold on. Before we go into questions, we'll talk about parent alienation. When you talk about that, that's a key one. That's a key one we're supposed to discuss. Parent alienation. I already talked about legitimation. Y'all understand what legitimation is. So parent alienation. You need to know what parent alienation is because that's a very important thing that's going on in the world right now. And let's just simply put it in our terms. It's basically where a parent is manipulating that child's mind to make that child have either not trust you, not like you, not want to be around you, whatever. That child just fears you in some form or fashion, or just don't want to be around you because of what the mother is saying and what the mother is doing. And there's so many different ways. Let me go with the actual legal terms for how parent alienation is. They use it. The parent will use a child to communicate their grievances, right? Basically, your dad just hurt my feelings. I'm crying. The mom crying. I just got into it with your dad, and constantly saying about your dad and looking at the pain. The child is looking at the pain that the mother saying the dad caused. That's one. Another one is speaking negatively about you to the child or to someone else while the child is present. Right. Speaking negatively, whatever it is negative that she can say about you. Oh, he deadbeat. He don't give that type of stuff. That's mentally changing that child's mind and emotionally disturbing that child, where now they put it like this: parent alienation has a long-term effect on a child. It goes all the way until they're adults. And I'm telling you this because I've dealt with this with my 20-year-old and my 17-year-old. Those are the only two kids that I had to pay court ordered child support for. Those are only two kids where I've had issues with their mothers. But I see it, how it has impacted my daughter even to this day.
That was one of the questions for you.
Because my 20-year-old is very disrespectful. Why? Because her mother was very disrespectful.
All those seeds that was planted.
You know, and did not want to co-parent at all. And still to this day, I'm still having issues with my 20-year-old with respect and a whole bunch of other things. And it's an emotional thing. She still says little stuff when she was a child. She's saying now, you don't do nothing for me, Dad. You don't do nothing for me. And I can go a laundry list of things. Anybody in the community, people know I love my kids. I'm there for my kids. I don't think I would be on this podcast if I wasn't on, you know, stand-up guy for my kids. But I hear it, you know, and that can play on a man as well emotionally when you know that you're giving your all, you know, and you might say, hey, but I'm doing this, I'm doing that, you know, like put it like this. There's no reason for you to say what you're doing because you can't defeat that. You can't. It's impossible. That child needs counseling now.
Yep.
Even though that child is an adult, but she's still stuck in that mentality because of what was the indoctrination of what happened for 17, 18 years. Think about that.
Yeah, and that goes back to our session last time when I was talking about how as parents, we got to focus on the child, man, more so than our own emotions. That's what we talk about, emotional intelligence, man, because if we don't focus on the child, this is the kind of damage that we can cause to them long term when it should be all about them and not us. But sometimes you can't see that when emotions you get caught up in emotions and whatnot, and you say stuff in front of kids. But this is like you're saying, this is the manifestations of all of that stuff that we do when we're, you know, immature and don't utilize emotional intelligence around our children. And this is kind of some of the stuff that it leads to. Was that the gist of parent alienation?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Question number 1. What is the most common custody arrangement?
Joint custody.
Joint custody. Yep.
Yeah. In America, joint custody is the most common custody arrangement, but you have to understand joint custody is so many forms of it, and it doesn't mean that you have the joint custody that most people think about, you know, as far as shared
time. It's not 50-50.
No, it's not 50-50. Joint custody, you just got to look at the laws per your state. Right. Look at the different options for joint custody. There's so many different options. But I say you need to go to, you know, Google, go to, you know, what are the joint custody laws from my state and what are my options for joint custody? Right. You know, you need to understand joint custody. They can assign a primary custodian, or they don't have to. Right. A lot of people don't know that, depending on the state, because we know what primary custodianship means. That basically that means that's the person that's going to